I know it's been like about a month since I've done a legal L, so let's get into it. The first one is the most exciting is a judge in Los Angeles has determined on a nationwide basis using the Administrative Procedure Act that the Department of Homeland Security's practice of arresting people at immigration courts and having like some sort of 21-day hold is unlawful. And it's in violation of the law across the entire country. So we'll see how that works out. Separately, Judge Jim Boasberg in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals was trying to find Todd Blanche and other DOJ attorneys in contempt of court for their behavior that led to over 200 men, 60-something of them percent have no criminal history, to be tortured for 100 days and see caught in a prison. I talked about it a lot. So the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, the full panel, has agreed to consider it because his contempt had been paused by the three-judge panel, which included 2 Trump-appointed judges. So the whole panel is going to hear it. So that's exciting. You probably already know that, I've covered this before, Judge Angel Kelly, a federal district court judge in Massachusetts, tossed out the Trump administration's attempt to create a massive voter database, which they were going to use to purge voters. And it's already been in use, by the way, but she said it violates several laws, several privacy laws, and it was not even created properly using the proper procedure. So that's great. Another judge you probably already know declared that the taking of several historic exhibits and displays of 54 or so across the country because of Donald Trump's executive order about restoring truth, which really is like sanitizing or whitewashing American history. She's like, I'll put all those back. And at some point, the Trump administration asked for a stay or pause. And in their pause request, they had the nerve to bring brand new arguments talking about they have a First Amendment right to present. No, you don't. You have a First Amendment right as a government to change history. So she denied that stay. And so she's like, I want them back here about a certain deadline. And so let's hop to it. We already know this, but the judge had already ordered the Trump administration to take down Donald Trump's name from the Kennedy Center. I was present. I live streamed during that process. We know that it was removed in the middle of the night and they put a tarp up. That same judge has asked the Trump administration to explain the tarp and then also give me a timeline, because that same judge also said you can't close it. The Board of Governors or Board of Chair, Representative Betty, said that they were trying to close it by just not doing anything, by inactivity. We've seen that a lot. That's what their modus operandi. That's how they close agencies that technically they can't close because Congress is needed to close it. So I'll keep you updated on that. A judge found that the Trump administration cannot stop people from sitting in on immigration court hearings in New York. Like, that's a fundamental right, and get out of here. Separately, a federal judge threw out the subpoenas that the Trump administration had issued or tried to get issued against Governor Walz in Minnesota, the Minneapolis mayor, and several other folks. The judge was like, this is just retribution and there's no basis for this. So get out of here. Asylum applications have been paused because one person of Afghan origin who was actually here legally decided to make the unfortunate, tragic decision to end the lives of 2 National Guardsmen. Because of that, the Trump administration just paused all asylum applications with no basis, no law, Nope. So a judge had told them to start it up again. Of course, they did not, because they don't listen. They're hard-headed. And the judge was like, I told you. It was Judge John McConnell, the chief judge in district court in Rhode Island. So I believe they started. I'll keep you updated. The $1.8 billion slush fund that Todd Blanche had organized as part of, I believe, a fraud in the court is found indefinitely closed because the judge said to Todd Blanche and the Department of Justice, bring me a sworn under oath documentation that you're not going to restart this because we don't trust you. And he didn't do it. So he's like, well, if you don't do it, indefinitely closed out. The judge that was initially looking at the $10 billion lawsuit in Florida, Judge Kathleen Williams, was urged by 24 federal district court judges, old ones, that said this looks like a fraud in the court. Essentially, when you bring a case with no intentions of really litigating it, but just for like manipulating court system, just because you want to do something else, that's called a fraud in the court. The circumstances, the consequences of that is either disbarment or other consequences, but you could also be referred for criminal prosecution. This guy who wants to be the AG has all these investigations on him. Jim Boasberg, Kathleen Williams, and about 100 judges have asked the New York State Bar to disbar him for his antics he did by vindictively prosecuting Kim Alberto Garcia. He went on Laura Ingraham's show and confessed to his crimes. And then when they told him to come defend yourself against this video, he refused because he didn't want to go under oath. And so they just tossed out the case. It was classic vindictive prosecution. And so we'll see what happens with that. But speaking of that, Kim Alberto Garcia has asked to go to Costa Rica because Mark Wayne Mullen probably didn't get the memo that they were trying to send him to Liberia as punishment, to keep him away from his family, his wife and kids. He said, I'll go to Costa Rica. We speak the same language, the same hemisphere. I can see my kids. And they're like, no, we want to punish you. But Mark Wayne Mullen, during the oversight hearing, was like, yeah, I'll let him go to Costa Rica. And now they're trying to bring back and appeal the vindictive prosecution. They're trying to do all sorts of hijinks because this man, they have a hard on for him. I don't understand, but I'll keep you updated with that. Attempt to put trans women in male prisons, which would be a cruel and unusual form of punishment, was blocked temporarily by a judge. I'll keep you updated with that. And they also try to access to trans youth's medical history. Like the government overreach. Don't tread on me. What? You conservatives, you Republicans, every single thing y'all thought about small government, no government, that's went out the window since y'all got in bed with this grifter. The $100,000 fee that Donald Trump tried to increase the H-1B visas was found like unlawful. That's like, you can't do that. You can't raise it from that much without the process. Toss that out. You know that's a scheme to try to limit H-1B visas, which is something that Laura Loomer hates. Like, y'all can't qualify. They don't want to hire you. What happened to capitalism? So the Bravo 6, which 6 protesters who were tossed and tried to vindictively prosecuted with no basis. There was a lot of hijinks. There's a lot of, seemed like grand jury tampering and grand jury misconduct. And so to avoid inquiry into that, they agreed, the government agreed to just pay them the lawyer's fee. And so that just piqued the interest of the judges. And so people are like, why are they trying to do that? We need to explore that more. If you're new here, I'm JD Legal. I'm monitoring the lawsuits filed against the Trump administration and those the Trump administration filed against others to give you a sense of calm, to take you beyond the headlines, to let you know that the judges are winning. They're holding the feet to the fire and making them abide by the rules, including judges appointed by Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, everyone. He's following the law. The Supreme Court F's up when it gets up to them, but that's a case for another day. There's a Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals joined the Second Circuit, I think 11th Circuit, 2 other circuit courts of appeals that determined that Donald Trump's policy by executive order and a memo, they tried to change a long-standing policy of the Immigration and the Nationality Act and Immigration, USCIS, where you let people who don't have any active removal order, no criminal background, you don't detain them. Especially if they've been here for over 2 years, you let them go. There's like alternative detention. And so 10,400 instances where people come before judges, the judges were like, go ahead, get out of here, release them to 1,000, 10 to 1. There's 2 court of appeals that approved them, 5th and 8th, which are flyover country and Texas. So the Supreme Court's going to consider that later. I'll let you know how that goes. Don Lemon had asked for release of the arrest warrant for him, Georgia Foote, who's his producer, and other protesters that were being prosecuted for the Center Cities thing during the Minneapolis surge. And surprise, surprise, the arrest warrant looked like it was fake. They said Georgia Foote was chanting. She was not chanting. So I'll keep you updated to that. That's what they do. They make up all sorts of stuff. The Haitian TPS, you know, that's what happened there. But there was an update in that. I have a video coming. Actually, it's on. I already produced it. I have a video with updates on that. So the other thing is that a judge tossed out Donald Trump's executive order. He's trying his best to try to manipulate the voters and try to disenfranchise people because he knows what's coming. Another judge tossed out their attempt to have the U.S. mail, like hold some new conditions on delivering mail-in ballots. The judge like, how many times are we going to tell you the states manage the elections? You don't have any. He's trying hard. He's desperate because he knows his ways out. Several warehouses has been challenged, and I'll keep you updated up to that. They're a waste of time. The administration's backed out of some of them. They have all these warehouses that they have to retrofit, spend all this money. They overpaid for them. It's a hot mess, and they're not primed for, anyway, they're being challenged. I'll keep you updated. Anyway, JJ Legals, that's my updates. If you like the receipts or proof of all of this stuff, you can get them on my receipts library. If you're a member of my paid YouTube, Substack, or Patreon community, this is what it looks like. Go to jadalegal.com.